Is it my impression or my observation? Why is Howie doing more for Nick Sirianni than he did for Doug Pederson? Why? What has Howie learned? Howie was not this good of a general manager with Doug. He was not. He was not this good a general manager with Doug. A lot of them were hired assassins as well. But why is Howie doing more for Nick? Putting more talent on the team for Nick than he did for Doug Pederson. Why? Is it because there was a power struggle between the two still? Howie didn't have the equity that he has now as a general manager? Was it that those two were on even ground when it came to the owner? Why is Howie doing a better job now for Nick? Is it because it's his show and it wasn't his complete show when they won the Super Bowl in 2017? What's changed? Doug won a Super Bowl. Team fell apart. The team, from the time the Eagles won the Super Bowl, it began to unravel immediately. It was unraveling. The relationship between Doug and Howie unraveled. The relationship between Wentz, Howie, Doug was unraveling. What happened? Why was Howie not the same GM? What was there pushback from Doug? Howie is a completely different general manager today than he was when Doug was here. What's the difference? What's the difference with Roseman now versus Roseman with Doug Pederson? This is an observation. I went back and I looked and I'm like, man, that team just kind of fell apart. Guys win a Super Bowl and it just continued. And it was like a downhill snowball just rolling. It was just rolling. And it was going nowhere to ending up being a 4-win season. That's kind of unbelievable from where that 4-win season and where you are now. But what was the number one factor in why that thing fell apart? And why is Howie better today than he was with Doug? He's clearly giving Nick Sirianni every opportunity to succeed. He's totally giving him every opportunity. What's the change? What has been the change in Roseman? They are more aggressive now, that's for sure, Dual Threat says. Welcome to Howie's house, Omar says. I heard Doug wanted all the power. Well, he was never going to get that because Doug was never going to get all the power because the blueprint had been put in place by the owner. Joe Banner and Andy Reid were partners. Maybe Doug wanted the relationship that Andy and Joe had, and it was never going to be. And Howie didn't want the relationship. It just seems it's completely changed. Do you think Howie, for Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the Eagles, to choose him, had to make compromises to the owner and that he had to listen more? Do you think he had to sell Jeffrey Lurie on why to keep him over Doug? And Doug didn't want. Remember, there was a meeting at the end of that year. They were having meetings, and the owner and Doug were talking. By the way, I think the owner still to this day reveres and loves Doug Pederson. He just chose him. Why? Do you think Howie really had to make the pitch? Firing a Super Bowl coach That's not the easiest thing on the planet, especially when you're talking about some of the greatest success in the history of the franchise. Roseman learned to draft best player, not needs, and listen to his coaches. Also, Doug could not keep his team healthy. Nick keeps his team healthy. Yeah, but don't you think, Kyle, that's more of an organizational thing? Arthur says Howie has always been good, if not Howie has always been good, if not the best GM. I think after Wentz's implosion, they decided with Hurts pick and Rager debacle to go with better schools, no more North Dakota nonsense. Could be. That's getting smarter and learning from your mistakes. They have Chip all the power. Then Doug came. Doug won the Super Bowl and then wanted more power. Jeff and Howie chose another direction. What direction was that? Because it's the right direction. I'm not saying it's not the right direction. Howie wants a statue out front, Dirty D. He keeps it up. He'll have a Theo Epstein trophy out front of Lincoln Financial. Like Theo Epstein is going to have one in Boston and Chicago. John says, do you think Howie is going after Bubba Baker? No, too expensive. He's not going to pay that kind of money for a safety. He would have given Gardner Johnson the money. By the way, we will talk with Brian Baldinger on that. It's not a soap opera, Steve. It's a question. He's killing it. Roseman's killing it. It's not a soap opera. By the way, I'm not creating drama here. I'm asking a question. Why is he better today? How? And he wasn't this guy with Doug. It's a question about the evolution. By the way, it's a conversation about your evolution of your general manager into making decisions that he's landed on every pod, and it's been right. It's not drama, dude. It's actually a great story on where your GM is and where your franchise is. It's not a drama, dog. It's what he's gone through. Okay? It's what he's gone through. It's totally not drama. Sills, it's funny. You ask one thought-provoking question, and the chat gets up in arms. Yeah, because you know why? They don't want to have to think about why Roseman is where he is. They just want to crown him the greatest general manager of all time. And he's not. He's evolved into doing an amazing job. Let me tell you this. Jalen Hurts gets hurt, and your season goes to 7-10, you'll be shitting all over this guy. Mark my words. By January, you'll be shitting on that guy because that's how fans are. And don't tell me anything different. You're quick to judge, quick to praise. Whenever time you kind of come up with something that has to make you think about where this guy's come from. Howie Roseman was not revered like this. The decision-making that he's making with free agents, I've never seen. You know, the only other person, there's two of them, that I've ever seen that land on free agents like this, they were George Allen and Al Davis. I've never seen an organization land on free agents that come into your organization and kill it. Never seen it. Never seen it. Al would bring in Matuzak, Alzado, Ted Hendricks. They would bring in all these players, Jim Plunkett, and they would go on and win Super Bowls with them. That's kind of what you're doing here. It's kind of like George Allen, Al Davis-ish. You're bringing these hired guns in, especially on the defensive side. How did this guy get like this? How about this? Do you guys think he was as good a GM as he is now with Doug? Answer the question. No one will. Do you think Howie Roseman's a better GM when Doug was here? When you won the damn thing. When you won the Super Bowl, do you think your GM is as good as he is now after losing a Super Bowl. How crazy is that? So you're telling me after you lost the Super Bowl, you think your GM is better today with Sirianni than he was when he won the Super Bowl with Doug? How? How did he? What's changed? Dirty D goes, I think he's better. What do you mean you think he's better? Have you not been watching these moves? And by the way, once again, I'll tell you the most impressive. Let's add to this conversation. What's the most impressive thing Howie Roseman has done this offseason? What's the most impressive thing he's done? I'm going to ask Brian Baldinger this at 4:30. What do you think is the most impressive thing he's done this offseason? Tone's got it. CJ's got it. He did something, folks, that no GM has done. You guys got it. The structuring of that contract